Hello everyone, and welcome to another beer review. And Merry Christmas. It's Christmas Day, and I hope everybody's having a good time. I've got lots of goodie presents, and don't forget, I hope you've all celebrated the birth of the little baby Jesus, because everybody thinks that's important on Christmas Day. Well, probably not, but anyway, that's how it started. I know most of the kids are probably thinking, did Santa come? So yes, so it seems to be, what the hell? What, have I got a dirty glass again? Just, right, anyway, probably won't make any difference what I'm going to be drinking in a minute anyway. So if you've been watching, then you probably already know what's coming. If you haven't been watching, then we're doing, I don't know whether to call it a vintage ale or an antique ale or an antique beer or a vintage beer, but it's an old beer. And it's been in this bottle far too long. It's been a cooped up bottle of beer for too long. So this is Tolly's Jubilee. Now Tolly's brewery doesn't exist. This was kindly donated by Adrian. Now Adrian got this from a friend who, I'm not sure whether he actually knew the people or were related to the people, but the people that gave his friend this bottle were actually the boilermen that actually worked in the brewery, and that's how they got these bottles at the time. So this dates back to 1957, which was one of the last brews that the Tolly brewery did. You know, Tolly breweries from the Ipswich area, and they merged with another brewery after that, not long after that. So roughly about 1957 is when this beer came out, and you can see it's a bit kind of ropey and it's seen better days, especially the foil at the top. It looks like there's been some sort of evaporation, because that, you maybe can't see it, but that's where the beer is sitting at just now. That's the level. I would have presumed it would be probably there or slightly further up, but again they might have been leaving a bit more room for maybe kind of secondary fermentation and things that I honestly really don't know. But at the end of the day, it appears that it's lost some volume. Now, as a backup, and I thought this was probably quite good, again this was donated by Adrian, and I'm going to use this as the kind of how would you call it, the mouthwash, if this is really bad. The Tolly brewery is really bad, and I just thought it was quite apt because of the actual name of the beer. So we're going to be doing Duff Beer. Oh Jesus, but it does have hell in the label, so at the end of the day it could be a review hell from that point of view, and there's a good chance one or both of them will probably be a Duff beer, you see. So there is a bit of method in my madness. There's plenty of madness and a little bit of method. So shall we crack on with this, because we all have a busy day to get on with. And I'll just do it. You can probably see I'm dragging this out. I really am dragging this out. But okay, right, tell you what, we'll do the peel together. Jesus God. But yeah, thanks to Adrian for giving us all this, and it's given us something a bit different to do for Christmas. I've got another thing coming out for Christmas that, Jesus, look at the state of that cap. Right, the cap has achieved some corrosion, as you could probably see. I mean, it's really quite corroded. Bloody hell. Just seeing if I can get smell any vapours, but right, okay, where's that bottle opener? Oh shit, that's on tight. Fuck. Jesus. There's better bottle caps in those days. Is this bloody thing glued on? For fuck. Can't get the fucking off. Look at that. It won't come off. For fuck's sake. Maybe that's a nope. There was nope. Yeah. Oh, that's an interesting tip to the bottle. Cap there. Some of the cap is kind of, the seal is kind of, oh God. I'm trying to do this. I'll maybe go and get a knife, because I don't want this to drop in the bottle, because I don't want it to spoil this wonderful, beautiful beer. Fucking hell. It's fucking started. It started. Right. Fucking hell. What the hell am I fucking doing with my life? Anyway, right. Get in there, you. Get up there, you sod. Right. It's never a good sight. Right. Oh, Jesus God. Jesus. Right, just going to wipe around the edges. As you can see, it's looking beautiful. Strange. It's almost a slightly wineish portish kind of smell. Right, let's pour it out, boys and girls. Jesus. Oh, that is very portish. Oh yeah. It does, it smells like a fortified wine. Which isn't a good idea, but it's supposed to be a Jubilee Ale. Well, I can't see any bits floating about in it, which I suppose that's a good idea. There's a slight kind of film over the top, but absolutely no head. I'll do the same as I did yesterday, which was a good idea. We'll just take a little sip first and then maybe think about going for a gulp, depending on what the reaction was to the little sip. I'll be doing the same. It was quite interesting yesterday, where the beer was actually really quite horrific and disgusting to start with, but once it'd been sitting there and got a chance to kind of get more prolonged contact with the air, a lot of the kind of, it wasn't the, yesterday's, I'm padding this out, as you know, I'm going to try to delay the inevitable, but yesterday's beer, just in case people didn't kind of realise what was happening, I wasn't saying that the beer flavours were bad initially with the Russian Imperial Stout. What it was is, bloody hell, you're getting the vapours. Now, I don't know what alcohol content this is, because it doesn't really say, so I'm completely blind, because there's nothing actually on the blooming label that tells you the alcohol content. So, what the fuck is that in the glass? Oh, in the name of Christ. I've just noticed there's a big skid mark. Don't know if you can notice the kind of shadowing there, I don't know. But you can maybe, there's some sort of residue going right up and down that bit of the glass of the bottle. Some really kind of gooey sediment. Shit. But yes, so yesterday's the case, it wasn't that the flavours were bad to start with, they were just very intense and very concentrated. It was almost like in the UK we have these fruit squashes that we dilute with water, so it's like a fruit drink but we dilute it with water, so it means that you buy the bottle and you can make so many drinks with it, so many litres more. And it was almost like that, it was almost like a concentrate or a squash version of beer. The flavours were there, but they were overbearing and overpowering, and it was just, oh, dreadful. But while it was sitting there and I was reviewing the other beer, obviously with the air and some of the alcohol evaporating off, that everything just kind of settled down and just kind of was a lot calmer. Yeah, the flavours were obviously still strong, but they were palatable from that point of view. It actually got better, and they'd slightly separated, so I could actually pick off the flavours a bit better from that point of view. So it just almost as if it's like the beer had relaxed after being in the air, and obviously some of that alcohol evaporated has obviously kind of eased up on it as well. So yes, it was quite a kind of transformation. I'm not saying it was a great beer at the end, but it was a heck of a lot more drinkable. And the good thing was, I did actually drink it all. That did not go down the sink. I can't say the same for the Yeasty Boys South Pacific Porter, because that was just crap, and that did go down the sink. So there you go. Right, well, shit stuck to the glass now. Right, here we go. No, it's, yeah, I mean, there's no other, it's just like, if you picked up or a glass of port and sniffed it, that's what it smells like. It smells like a glass of port. Tawny. Vintage. That's unusual. Yeah. It's completely flat. There's no carbonation. Whether it was supposed to have carbonation on it, I honestly don't know. But going by that type of bottle cap, you'd expect there would be some kind of carbonation, because you wouldn't really have used that type of bottle cap. But in saying that, I have known them putting flat beers in bottles with that type of cap with no carbonation. So I don't know whether, but I presume it should have been a carbonated ale. That is very port-like. So it is very, very port-like. But it doesn't have the sweetness of port, and it doesn't have that kind of richness, that kind of, how would you call it, body. You know, it's a kind of slightly syrupy port. So you're taking it and it's sweet and it's kind of syrupy and it's a kind of fortified wine, fruity flavours. You're not getting that. You're getting the accents of port, but without the sugar kind of hit and rush. And it's just not syrupy, it's quite watery. And yeah. I've actually swallowed that one. Might live to regret it. Now this is before Christmas dinner. I'm having Christmas dinner around about 3 o'clock-ish. So I thought I'll get this done before, because at the end of the day I don't really want to be trying this. If it's going to make me basically projectile vomit, I don't want to have a full stomach, because that's just going to give it far too much ammunition. We don't need that. So, but I have basically done this after breakfast, because I don't want to try this on an empty stomach either. So this is basically, well, it was mid-morning. I think it's maybe just back at 12 now. But yeah, I would say that's quite undrinkable. I would say that's probably nowhere near what it was originally when it was put in the bottle. It is so wine-like, fortified wine-like. It's really has no attributes of being like beer at all. Absolute none. I'm going to have one more sip and then that's it. I'm going to go into the other Duff Beer. See? There was method in that, man. It's also quite earthy as well. Jesus God. It's not as violent as yesterday, because yesterday it was just, oh Jesus, it was an assault on the senses, basically, the mouth. Jesus, your taste buds were being attacked everywhere. And by very, very strong concentrated flavours, to the point as it was, oh, and then you had the alcohol vapours as well. It was hitting you in the back of the throat and you're thinking, Jesus God, this is an absolute nightmare of a beer. But of course it settled down. This one is nowhere near as intense or as offensive initially to drink, but the flavours are completely off, because it doesn't taste like beer at all. And unless they were basically trying to kind of emulate port, which I very much doubt it, but just looking at the kind of what's going on in the glass, I mean, I don't know if I've got any light I can shine through to try and kind of highlight what's actually going on with the glass. Jesus God. I'll try and see if we can bring this over and try and give you a bit more. Okay, now it's just going to be a bit too much. Trying to show you, yeah, you can see a wee bit out of it now. See? Look at all that stuck in the glass bottle. And it's absolutely glued around the bottom of it as well. Crikey. I don't know if you can see any of that, but no. But yes, there's a lot of sediment stuck all over the place, and yeah. How would I mark this out of 10? Out of 10, I would say it's undrinkable, so it gets a 0 out of that. As an ale, it doesn't taste like ale, so it gets a 0 out of that. As a port, I'd probably say I'd give it maybe a 1 or a 2. It does have the port aromas, it does have the light port flavourings, it doesn't have the sweetness, and it certainly doesn't have the body. So yes, it's more like port than beer. And Jesus God, the mess I've made of this table, by the way. Oh, what a load of shit. Right. So yes, not such a great success. Strange that it was tasting like port, but I never expected that. Going by what was happening yesterday, I expected it to be more or worse, more like yesterday's or even worse. But it isn't. It's not undrinkable by the kind of flavour profiles and just how it is on the taste buds, but knowing what it should be like, I'm not saying actually, but what ale should taste like, this is completely a different drink from that point of view. And I don't think they would have probably made something so port-like in its kind of flavour profiles, unless if they did, then they've got it spot on, and it's really kind of strange. So yes, I would probably say it's a 0 out of 10. It's not really drinkable, and it looks like definitely the time in the bottle has been affected, and air's got in and other things have been happening to it, and yeah, it's really changed its kind of profile. Well, it's been in the bottle for all that length of time, but it was nice to give it a try. Nice to see what it was like. I won't be drinking anymore, just because I don't think that would be a good health choice. So let's get back onto the Duff Beer. Now, it says Lager Beer Hell, which I presume it's the case as though it's probably a kind of mix between a kind of lager and a Hell's Lager, or maybe it's just a Hell's Lager. It's a 4.9% volume. It's a 500ml can. Who brews it? Somebody would be brewing it. Any details? It doesn't really say much, apart from Duff Beverage, GmbH. So it's from Germany. And its ingredients are water, barley, malt, hop extracts. So it doesn't look like it's proper hops, it's just the extract, so that could be the pellets or it could be the actual the syrup, the kind of oil. We'll have to see. The only problem is if you use the extract oil and that, then you can't really take the bloody stuff back out. So more likely to be probably the pellets. And yeah, doesn't really say much, but apparently it looks like it's brewed in Germany. Can't seem to see anything else to tell me otherwise. And apparently, originally, well, obviously not in real life, but Duff, of course, is associated with Homer Simpson in The Simpsons, because it's supposed to be his favourite beer. So let's crack it open and see what it's like. Ooh, well, it's very kind of light in colour, which is a bit kind of more like a Helles lager. Yeah, it is very kind of, I would say very kind of Budweiser-esque. There we go. So, there you go. What does it smell of? You're getting a little bit, you're getting that kind of slightly sweetish kind of light malt, but sweetish kind of aromas. A hint of grain, but it's all kind of like kind of very light malt. And yeah, that kind of sweetish kind of aroma you get with lagers sometimes. And that's really it. So, let's get wired in. Right, there's a nice little kind of bitterness at the end, but unfortunately what kind of detracts from that bitterness at the end is a slight metallic feel. It has that kind of slightly Tennent's lager-esque kind of metallic feel at the end there. It's not overly carbonated, it's quite lightly carbonated for a lager. So it's still well carbonated for a beer, but it's lighter than a normal lager would be. Quite light in flavour. So it is really quite light in flavour. Let's break it down. Right. You're getting light malty sweetness to start with. A little bit of grain, but light malty sweetness at the start of the mouth. Moves on to the mid-tongue. The malty sweetness kind of dies down a wee bit. Still there, and it runs all the way through to the aftertaste. But it's still there, but it's a lot lighter than it is. It's a lot lighter in the mid-tongue than it is at the front of the mouth. The grain kind of flavours start to build up, and you're starting to get these little accents of bitterness as part of that, which is probably the hop extracts probably doing that. And it's like that through the mid-tongue, just that kind of light kind of grain flavour, light malty sweetness, and just little accents of bitterness. Moves on to the aftertaste. The light malty sweetness is still there in the aftertaste, but it's died down again, so it's going down another couple of steps, so it's really very light and just almost like an accent. The grains are really kind of dissipating quite quickly into the aftertaste, but what you're doing is the bitterness is just slightly ramping up a bit more and becoming more of a flavour rather than an accent. But as well as that's ramping up, you're getting this kind of slightly kind of metallic, slightly kind of copperish kind of accent as well that you're getting in the aftertaste, which kind of spoils it a bit. And from my point of view, coming from Scotland and having to suffer 10-inch lager plenty of times when I didn't really want to, I've grown to kind of really detest that in a beer. I really don't like it. I think it's just an awful flavour profile to have in a beer, and it's very indicative of how much I don't like 10-inch lager because of that. And if I taste another beer, I find it quite off-putting. Other people might like it. I mean, as a lager, it's actually alright, not too bad. My mouth has got slightly acclimatised, so the metallic flavour is there, but it's not as penetrating or as invasive as it was with the first couple of mouthfuls. So it has kind of settled down as your mouth got acclimatised to it. So it's not playing such a big part, so the aftertaste has actually got slightly better. But also with that, the bitterness is kind of slightly calmed down as well as the mouth got acclimatised, so the bitterness in the aftertaste isn't as strong, which again isn't so good. But in saying that, everything in the aftertaste is slightly kind of scaled down because also the malty sweetness is scaled down, so the aftertaste is weakened as the mouth's got acclimatised to it, and it's not as strong or prevalent as it was with the first couple of sips. And that's what happens sometimes when you're drinking beers. Your mouth gets acclimatised. Some of the flavours will either calm down or really kind of almost disappear, which can be a good thing, but can also be a bad thing if it takes other things with it. And by the looks of it, it has a little bit. So it's kind of slightly now a more kind of watery, kind of watered down aftertaste. But it's an alright beer. It's not overly sweet now. It was a wee bit sweeter to start with, but it's not as sweet now. It's getting a little bit of dryness to it, a little bit of crispness as your mouth is acclimatised to it. And I suppose, yeah, it's not too bad. I actually thought it was going to be a lot worse than it actually really is. And it's actually not too bad. If I compared it to the likes of Foster's and Carling and Budweiser and all these kind of crap beers, and they are crap beers, I'm not going to lie to you. It's actually slightly nicer and better and tastes a bit more genuine to a certain degree. I'm not saying it is, but it just tastes that little bit more genuine, a little bit more real as a lager. And I suppose, let's be totally honest, it's playing on the kind of the Duff Beer, the legendary Duff Beer that appears in The Simpsons as everybody's favourite brand of beer. Out of 10, what would I give this? I would probably give this I'm actually going to give this a 6, because if I look at the mainstream piss water, they're between 3 and 4. The mainstream piss water, I would say this is kind of average, moving on to kind of 6, and it is Christmas. And I would say, yeah, it's maybe slightly above average, so I'm going to give it a 6. It's actually not too bad. It's actually fairly kind of, it's a bit kind of dead and that type of stuff. But as a summer drink, you know, barbecues, parties, watching the football, you can guzzle this quite easily. It's very easily swallowed because of the carbonation. It's just quite nice. The mouth feels quite nice, and it's very kind of sessionable. And I'm sure on a hot day this would just really hit the mark. And it's not kind of overly sweet, and it doesn't have the kind of chemical kind of aftertaste so much and things like this. Although it did have a slight metallic one initially, which has kind of died down. So yeah, I'll give it a 6 out of 10. It's not so bad. It's definitely not offensive, and I've had a choice of that or any of the other mainstream piss waters, including Stella, 1664, Grolsch, Foster's, Carling, all that kind of mainstream piss water. Then I'd probably go for this rather than them. So that says it all. So have a great Christmas. Have a wonderful day, whatever you're doing. I hope you have a safe time and you don't drink too much, but if you do, hope you enjoy it and stay safe. Thanks for watching. Cheers and bye for now.